You know, sometimes the biggest shifts in technology, they don't come from some flashy keynote or a product launch that goes viral. Nope. Sometimes they come from just a single number, kind of buried in a company announcement. Today, we're going to dive into one of those numbers, this one from Broadcom, that's hinting at a massive, quiet revolution happening in the world of AI. So let's unpack what this one little number really tells us about the future. 1 million. That's it. That's the number. Broadcom just announced that it expects to sell at least 1 million of its advanced 3D stacking chips by the end of 2027. Just let that sink in for a second.
And I know what you're probably thinking. 1 million, so what? I mean, we hear about millions of iPhones being sold in a single weekend. In the world we live in, a million of something doesn't always sound like that huge of a figure anymore, right?
But that's the thing. These are not phones. These are some of the most complex, highest performance pieces of silicon that have ever been created. You know, the kind that are literally going to power the future of AI. So what does it really mean when a company makes a commitment like this? Because I'm telling you, this is not a casual number. It is a statement.
Okay, to understand why this is such a massive deal, we gotta talk about the technology itself. We need to demystify this thing called 3D stacking.
Let's just simplify it. Think of the traditional chips we've been using for decades as being totally flat, like a one-story building, or maybe a sprawling single-level factory. All the different parts are laid out right next to each other. It's worked for a long time, but it's starting to hit its limits.
Well, 3D stacking just changes the entire game. Now we're building skyscrapers. Instead of laying everything out flat, engineers are literally stacking layers of memory and logic vertically, one right on top of the other. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about chip architecture.
And this is exactly where 3D stacking becomes a total game changer for AI. See, by building up instead of out, we're creating these super highways for data. Think about it. Shorter distances mean faster travel times. Information just zips between these layers in a fraction of the time it would take to crawl across a flat chip. So you get this incredible speed, but you also use way less energy to send those signals. And that's a huge deal when you're running these massive AI models that are just unbelievably power hungry. This isn't just a small step forward. It's a giant leap in both performance and efficiency.
But here's the thing. Broadcom isn't doing this alone. Not in a vacuum. A move this big sends ripples through the entire tech ecosystem, and it involves some of the biggest names you can possibly imagine.
First up, NVIDIA. I mean, they practically built the current AI boomerang, and their GPUs are the engine of modern artificial intelligence. But even a titan like NVIDIA depends on advanced packaging like 3D stacking to squeeze every last drop of performance out of their hardware. So when Broadcom ramps up production, it directly supports the entire AI infrastructure that NVIDIA is building.
And who physically makes these chips? The one and only giant, TSMC. They're the factory that brings Broadcom's brilliant designs to life. So, if Broadcom is planning to sell 1 million of these incredibly complex units, you can bet TSMC is deeply, deeply involved. This signals a massive investment in expanding their manufacturing capacity, and, maybe more importantly, it shows their long-term confidence that AI demand is here to stay.
And then you've got Apple. They are the absolute masters of integrating powerful, efficient chips into all of their devices. Apple just doesn't adopt new technologies unless they are mature, scalable, and totally ready for prime time. So their involvement here is a powerful signal that 3D stacking is ready to move into the devices that we all use every single day.
And finally, let's zoom out to the cloud giants. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, these companies are building the digital foundations of our future, and they are facing a massive bottleneck: data. Training these huge AI models requires moving just staggering amounts of information. 3D stacking is kind of like adding a bunch of new lanes to the highway, letting them move vast amounts of data at incredible speeds, right where they need it the most.
So all of this brings up a really crucial question. Is this really just a story about one company's new product? Or are we actually witnessing the story of a massive acceleration in our entire global AI infrastructure?
And that, right there, leads us to the strategic heart of this announcement. This is not just a forecast. This is a massive bet on the future of AI. It's a strategic statement about where the entire industry is headed.
Because here's the crucial point. This technology is unbelievably difficult and expensive to produce. I mean, it requires cutting-edge lithography, impossibly precise alignment between layers, really sophisticated solutions for just getting the heat out of that stack, and then there's the constant battle to get enough usable chips, or yield, from each wafer. You just don't commit to making a million of these things unless you are absolutely certain the demand is real and that it's durable.
Which brings us to the one question that seems to be hanging over everything right now. The question everyone in finance and tech just keeps asking, is AI a bubble? Well, here's your answer, and it's written in silicon and capital investment. Companies like Broadcom and TSMC and all their customers, they do not make multi-billion-dollar, multi-year commitments to a temporary trend. This is probably one of the strongest signals we've seen yet that the industry truly believes the AI revolution has legs.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What is the real impact of this quiet revolution? And what does it actually mean for you?
So what does all this mean? Well, first, it seems the AI boom is real and it's being built on a very solid foundation of hardware. The huge investments we're seeing aren't just for software. They're for the physical stuff that makes it all possible, and that suggests this growth is durable. Second, the way we build chips, the packaging, is becoming just as important as the silicon designs themselves. It's a whole new competitive frontier. And finally, and maybe this is the most important part, it means the most foundational changes aren't always the ones making the most noise. They're happening quietly in the hardware. And this just illustrates the whole point so brilliantly. It's not always the loudest stories that are the most important. Revolutions don't always need to shout. Sometimes, they stack, quietly, one layer at a time.
And so we end right where we began, with this number, 1 million. It's not just a number anymore, is it? It's a roadmap. It's a huge vote of confidence. It's the sound of the future of computing being built, one impossibly complex, perfectly stacked chip at a time. It makes you wonder, what other quiet revolutions are happening right now that we might be missing?